Golden slumbers kiss your eyes, smiles await you when you rise. Sleep, pretty baby, do not cry. I will sing a lullaby.
I've always been interested in using video, in people seeing themselves on videotape, and that's the work that I started doing a long time ago. And I was always amazed how people got confidence when they saw themselves on the screen and saw themselves able to express themselves, able to play with their kids, and it was an incredibly positive experience. I've always held that in the back of my mind. And when I was in the States doing on a Churchill Fellowship in the early 90s, I was looking at parenting programs, and I had decided I wanted to work with mothers and first-time mothers and babies in the beginning of their lives. And the program that I looked at in the States used 3 different components: home visiting, group work, and video. And they used little snippets of video in the home at regular intervals. And the way they got mums to be involved in the program was by saying, at the end of the year, we'll give you a video of your baby's first year of life. And I loved that. That was the beginning of the Seniors Believing work. I wanted to work with mothers and with babies. And after many years working in the education system, and after many years working in CAMS, and always working with children who were in difficulties, who were presenting different kinds of challenging behaviour or extreme difficulties in the home, or asylum seekers, or I wanted to start with begin at the beginning, before there was any stigma attached to the relationship between the mother and the child, and create a program that told a story of hope and possibility, and that the mums would believe in themselves through seeing themselves relating to their babies. I realised then that the video worked better if you worked in the home, because if you came into people's own territory, they felt relaxed and they felt in control of their own situation. Yeah. If they came to a clinic, they weren't in control. So, when I moved into Brent CAMS in London, they were really interested in that programme, and they were really interested in the video aspect, and invited me to just run that component of it. So it became part of the work in the clinic, and clinicians would refer families to Seeing is Believing, and they particularly referred families where there were babies, and where, for example, psychologists would describe the mums as having attachment difficulties in their relationship with their babies. They also referred a lot of toddlers, generally very young children, who couldn't really access therapeutic help through language. Yeah. But actually, the important thing was for them to play with their mums, and then for the mums and the clinician to discuss how they were playing together and what the mum was doing well. So that's how we moved it into Brent. But two or three of the clinical psychologists became very, very interested in the work, and the simplicity of it. I mean, people still seem to think that video is complicated and difficult, and you have to be technically competent to work it. But slowly people realised it was a very accessible tool, and it was a very non-threatening tool for mums. We had a lot of people who were not English speakers, or English wasn't their first language in Brent. We had a lot of refugees, we had a lot of people who'd come from abroad. and also from Eastern Europe,
Yeah.
different countries, and you couldn't really communicate with parents with language very easily anyway.
Yeah.
But actually looking at a bit of videotape
Yeah.
and running it and smiling and watching and rerunning bits worked very well.
Yeah.
And in the clinic we saw quite a lot of change happening quite quickly. What I did was, when I first met the family, the client, usually the mother and the child, the clinical psychologist would have explained that it was a program using video. And when I met the mum, I used to bring the camera, which was literally the size of my mobile phone,
Yeah.
and I'd show her it,
Yeah.
and I might show her a bit of tape of somebody else,
Yeah.
anonymous of course, or,
Yeah.
and so that they would see what we did.
Yeah.
And then I might play a game with the mum and the child with the video, so we would be pulling faces at each other or laughing or joking and I'd say we're going to use this for the next few sessions, and we're going to film. Sometimes when we're bringing up our kids and we've got all the things we've got to worry about in the family, we don't realise how many things we're doing well.
Yeah.
And how naturally we're being good mums because we always worry about what we're not doing.
Yeah.
And these bits of video are going to show you the things you do well. And I said, don't worry, if the baby cries or if your kid starts being rude in the session, I'll just switch the camera off.
Yeah.
We won't record any of that. And then when you finished, when you go home, I'm going to just edit some bits together that you like. And then when you come in tomorrow or next week, we'll look at them and we'll talk about them.
Yeah.
That's how I explain the programme. Sometimes I ask them if you wanted to see something change in your relationship or in your everyday life together, what would that be?
Yeah.
But actually, that was a kind of brief therapy way of identifying change.
Yeah.
And actually, I didn't really like that because I think this is a really metaphorical way of working.
Yeah.
And I don't think you need to hammer home in that kind of very concrete cause and effect way. I think it's much better for for a mum to see on a tape when her baby started fussing and she reached out and smiled at it and the baby caught her eye, and I managed to edit those few seconds on tape just for her to see that.
Yeah.
And if she had enough English, or I might want to talk about it, but sometimes it was enough just to see that moment and not to hammer home how you want things to change.
Yeah.
What was really important was to make sure you had enough light that you could see the video when you played back.
Right.
Okay. There were some practical things that you had to really,
Yeah.
because it was terrible to go in, record in the home.
Yeah.
The mum might have put a clean bedspread on the bed or something, and then the whole thing was too dark, and that was dreadful. So you had to make sure that technically the thing worked. You also had to make sure the sound worked, and you could hear the baby or the little one responding to their mum, and you could hear what the mum was saying. If she was saying anything. But that was really important because often I was working with people who didn't talk very easily to their babies. But you would hear a murmur, "What are you looking at? You're looking at my earrings because they're sparkling." And she might be saying it in such a little whisper. You've got to get it. Because that's the way of saying, what made you say that? And do you think he listened to you? And who spoke to you when you were little? And what do you think about speaking to your baby? And how do you think your baby learns? You don't need to film a lot. You go into the room. How did I set it up? I did the explanation of the video as and asked the mum either in advance to set up a space in the corner of the room where we might play together. And I would ask her, shall I bring some toys with me, or would you like, or shall we use your toys? She usually said, will you bring them with you? And the families in Brentford I was working with really didn't have very much in their homes altogether. So I would bring a basket of toys, and if I would be filming 3 or 4 times, say with a toddler, I'd bring the same toys.
Yeah.
So that the child recognised and remembered the toys,
Yeah.
and also on the screen that the mum saw
Yeah.
the repetition with the toys.
Yeah.
And then we would take the time to set up the filming corner, and I wouldn't rush it too much.
Yeah.
And if I felt that it needed, I mean, one home that I went in, there was really nothing in the room except just a mattress on the floor. There's no bedding on the mattress.
Yeah.
And I brought in a blanket,
Yeah.
or I used my coat or my jumper
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
too. And that's how we set it up. The mum knew in her head how it was going to work because I'd done the explanation.
Yeah.
And then I would say, and then she would play. Well, I'm sitting, I have to sit a bit further away or stand a bit further away because my focus is to make sure that I get a few minutes of the mother and the baby playing together.
Yeah.
But in the room, it was about not me leading a session, but me creating an atmosphere that was relaxed and fun.
Yeah.
So we would crack jokes and
Yeah.
the thing with the television, the thing with the phone, the thing with a video camera that's the size of a phone, is that I could hold it on my knee and I didn't have to be looking through the camera at the mum. So I was sitting there like this, looking at the mum and the kid and joining in. Sometimes I was on a chair, sometimes I was on the floor. Usually I was on the floor. If they were on the floor, I was on the floor.
Right, yeah, yeah.
And if they were sitting at a table, if they were going to do something at a little table with Lego or something, I might be sitting on the chair to just be at the same level. If there's the little boy who was drawing and drawing with his mum, I would say, "Can I have a look?" It didn't matter that I was filming; I'd always be able to edit it out. And he would show his picture up to the screen, which was quite nice to edit into the bit. And I would comment on it together with the mum, or say, or I'd have a conversation with the mum and say, "Does he sit and draw at home while you're making the tea?" And she might say, "Oh, "I've never tried that," or "Oh, that's a good idea," or "Well, we don't have any crayons," or we might have a conversation about that during the session. But my main focus was to do things that joined them together, and that I could stay outside, and that they could see themselves, and Mum could see them joined together. The way that I was working with the video to film vignettes of them developing their relationship with their kid, it wasn't a therapeutic relationship in the way that I would be in the clinic. It's being alongside, and I guess it's being alongside and drawing out of them those magic moments, and kind of witnessing what they're doing, and when I see them doing it, commenting on it. I had to comment on things because it might not happen again, or you never knew if she would quite come back to watch the video. Actually, people did come back to watch the video. But I learned that you don't film a whole session for half an hour, because I hadn't got time. This is the NHS. I didn't have time to trawl through half an hour of tape to find a total of 3 minutes of good stuff. I learned, I could see when it was coming. And I learned to just film maybe 10 minutes at the most. I don't edit, and sometimes I would only edit like 2 seconds here and 5 seconds there. And I'd edit together maybe 3 or 4 pieces of that session that we could talk about together. And then the mum would come back on her own. Well, sometimes there were dads as well. Yes. Or I would go back to the home, and I liked doing that at home because I went back, say, to show the mum, but if I was lucky, Dad would come home from his shift or would arrive, and then he would look at it as well. And that in fact happened, and the dad said, "Oh, can I do the filming next time?" And then so we could do it with the dad as well. And I much preferred showing it at home, and it was really, really nice when you could hook the laptop into the TV screen, and they could see themselves in big on the TV screen. I'd play the piece of video back.
Yeah.
I would emphasise, she would know that I've only edited the good bits.
Yeah.
Or not just, that I've only edited the bits which are really lovely.
The lovely
you
bits.
and your kid.
Yeah.
That's how I'd phrase it.
Yeah.
And so I'd show the first bit, and then I would say, I'd stop it, and then I'd say, so what was it about that bit that made me bring it back to show you?
Yeah.
And she would say, whatever, she might say, I've never seen him build a house out of Lego before, or, and I would then say, what were you doing while he was building that? And I might have to show it her again, and then she would say, I was smiling at him.
Yeah.
And I would say, what do you think that meant for him? And she would, or do you think he noticed?
Yeah.
And then she would say yes, and I'd encourage her to give meaning to his noticing.
Yeah.
What do you think he felt that you were smiling?
Yeah.
And she would say, well, she would say, he liked the attention I gave him.
Yeah.
And I say, so when does that happen at home?
Yeah.
And then she might say, well, not enough, or I need to think about more times, or and we might talk about when she could give him more attention. And then I would say, so when you were little, who gave you attention?
Yeah.
And who made you smile when they were?
Yeah.
And connect her with positive stories of when she was young, and maybe when she was. This work is more about stories about relationship with people who've given them support, I think. And I think that's because in the video they are looking at their relationship with their kid.
Yeah.
So if I'm asking them about stories from their past, I'm asking them about the relationships they had in the past that were supportive to them, or where they have the same feeling. For exploring the feeling their kid has on the video, when did they have a similar kind of experience? Sometimes they cried, sometimes they became very distressed.
Distressed?
If they'd left a granny in another country and they weren't sure if she was still alive, or if they'd left their family, or but it reconnected them beyond the trauma they'd been through into the way they were when they were home, when they were with their original families.
Yeah.
Sometimes they hadn't thought about the positive stories. Sometimes they hadn't realised that they would remember something good, and that was very significant. Sometimes they asked me, please can I have a copy of this bit of tape to send to my mum in Poland?
Yeah. Yeah.
That she can see that I'm doing what she did with me.
Yeah.
And maybe the first session, it would change over 2 or 3 sessions.
Yeah.
At first she might not play very much, or would do that thing of teaching. Look, this is a red car, say red car.
Yeah.
But after she'd seen the first feedback, and that it wasn't about teaching, and that she was being valued for smiling at her, there was less need for teaching. The second session she relaxed more and was more herself. I don't want to sound too sort of simplistically Pollyanna with this, but I do think that they came feeling very unconfident. And of course, if they came into CAMS, they were a referral because there was a danger of something going wrong, or there were already difficulties. And I think that they connected with their own competences through this work, and they changed their focus from what wasn't working and what they couldn't do to what was working and to what they were capable of doing. And I think there was something very creative about seeing these little snips of lovely interaction between them and their kid that made them want to do more of it. and made them understand how they could do more of it. And often our conversations around the tape was practically how could they do it, what needed to happen, that they weren't spending all their time making tea, and that they could play with their kid or draw with them, or it was partly moving what happened in the room or in that home visit into their everyday lives, and seeing is believing. They began to believe in themselves. They believed in themselves and their own ability to parent. What I did was, if they have the language, we viewed a bit of tape where the mum picked the baby up. And then I would put that into language and say, what made you decide to pick him up at that point? And she would be surprised that I'd even asked the question. She'd take it for granted that I would know that everybody picks your baby up when you... And by putting it into words, and then by discussing with her what were the signals she'd got from the baby that made her do that, was giving her confidence in her own ability to parent. And I saw that change happening while we were talking about it. The connection that I made was, how did you know how to do that? The conversation with us would be about, well, we learn these things from somewhere. Somebody has done it to us, and that's how we know how to do it. That growing awareness that we have inside us, the way people have talked to us and the way they've looked after us. And what we need to do is to tap into the good bits of that, the bits that were lovely and the bits that worked for us. One of my intentions was for them to rehearse the way they were with their kid in the sessions, and then they would take that home and they would do it in their own context. But we also used the video to show, so that the video camera itself was a witness of how they could be with their kid. And like the woman who wanted to send it to her mum in Poland, there was another mum who had learning difficulties who went through this programme, and we did a family gathering. We all had tea in their house, and the parents-in-law came, and the granny came, and the aunties, and they all watched these clips of this mum playing with her child, and to celebrate her being a good mum. So we could use the video as well. We used the video itself as a tool for. And what I tried to do was to stay with, if like the mum and the kid who were drawing together, I would stay with that activity and say, when do you do this at home? And my question would be kind of assuming that you do it at home. If you do it here, you've done it before. And that assumption helped the mum think about how she could create the time, or start putting a value on it, the importance of doing that shared activity with their kid, and moving away from complaining. Sometimes it was hard to move a parent away from complaining, or move away from the shoulds and oughts of what needs to be done to keep the wheels oiled of their family life, and actually reprioritise. And realise that if you did spend the time and you were doing a shared activity together, that you would be smiling at each other, because that's what you'd seen them. That would make the child more compliant, and it would lead to things being happier and easier at home. I was less interested in that behavioural aspect of it. I mean, I did it, and it was important some of the time, but I felt it was most effective where you were, where the relationship itself was resonating, say, with the parent's previous experience, or where there was, where there was something like, whatever the age really, when the mother and the child made eye contact, and it was a kind of affirmation of the love between them. I really liked letting that hang there, and letting them do with it what they wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a mum. She didn't have much English, and she was quite austere with her child. And then there was once when I was filming, and he was rolling around on his back. He was about 3. And I was wondering whether I should stop filming, because I thought in any minute she's going to slap his legs and it's going to be... But he was sort of rolling around on his back, and he put his hand out to her, and she just went like this. And their hands stayed like that for maybe a second. And he turned his head and he just smiled at her. And I caught it, I hadn't stopped filming. And I played it back, and it was the only time there was a sort of playful contact between them. And I edited just that, and played it back to her, and she looked at it. She looked at me, and she said, play it again, and I played it again. She looked at me, and she just smiled.
Yeah.
And there was no need to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just allowing the moment, allowing the metaphor to be there, and let them think their own thoughts about it. There was a lot of structured parenting programs, and what my colleagues were saying was that they were referring to me, for seeing is believing, the parents who couldn't access those programs because of their lack of confidence in their own relationship with their kids, or their lack of confidence with relating to an institution, or their lack of confidence in being able to be confident enough in a group of parents. But after they'd gone through Seeing is Believing, many of them could be referred on, and they could build on the experiences within the video work. I did training in a neonatal clinic, in a mother and baby unit. It was a mother and baby clinic for mothers who were at risk with their babies, and they would be in the clinic for a number of weeks, sometimes a number of months, before they to get support and encouragement before they went home with their babies. I trained care workers, care assistants, and care workers who were working alongside clinicians, and that unit wanted me to turn around a culture of criticism and negativity to finding a way of having conversations about what people are doing and what they could do and could learn to do. And the work, the video work, the Seeing is Believing work, turned that around quite quickly. And it created a different culture of affirmation and people who were struggled with language and struggled with words really liked using the video, and really and a lot went on through non-verbal language, through the smiling and the looking and the turning their heads, and so I think it's a very good tool for people who are not who've not gone through extended professional training, and they need very. You need a few hours to learn how to work a video. That's dead easy. You learn how to work a video in 5 minutes. It's a few hours to know how to capture the filming and have a conversation, looking at the video. And maybe people need support on an ongoing basis from time to time. They just know that young women need support, and certainly the young women in those clinics are in difficulties, and they need warmth and support and encouragement. And not being criticised, but being allowed to find their own way in the way they want to be with their child, and the video worked well for that, because they were exploring the way the beginnings of this relationship, and the care workers filmed it, and again, it was fun and jokey and laughing and warm, empathic. I mean, the way that I supported those care workers was that I filmed them talking to the mums about the bits of video. So I filmed the filming, so to speak, and then
it,
we looked at it and we
Yeah.
talked together about what they were doing well, that was encouraging and lovely moments between them and the mum. And that's how they then understood what they needed to do with the mum and the baby.
Wow.
And actually I only needed to do like a little piece of film once or twice with those care assistants
Yeah.
and do the feedback with them, and they got it.
Yeah.
So I think that many of them might have had a is it an NVQ or basic
Yeah.
qualification in working with babies or working
Yeah.
in nurseries or very basic qualifications. A lot of them didn't have very much English either.
Yeah.
And we were working with minimal
Yeah.
language skills. And then the clinicians, the professionals in the unit
Yeah.
would meet with them at regular intervals and look at
Right.
tapes with them and talk about it. Without specialised training. Those
Training,
professionals might have gone
Yeah.
through a week seeing a family with me and
Yeah.
doing the feedback, but they were using their existing skills. They didn't have to do a special qualification in
Yeah.
seeing is believing
Yeah.
to be able to support the
Yeah.
care workers.
Cares you know not there for sleep, while over you a watch I'll keep. Sleep